right.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. Everybody, this is Dean Bill Thomas. I'm gonna be interviewing him, asking a couple questions, and y'all enjoy.
Okay.
So, as a time now and back then, as blacks, how would you feel things have changed?
I think there have been some what I call surface changes. Uh, During the time when I was growing up, I was talking with my wife about this. There were so many things that we didn't know. And when we had people who were trying to tell us about the truth of some of those things, we thought something was wrong with them.
Like us.
Right. We were talking about really, to give you an example.
Yeah.
We're talking about Malcolm X. I was talking about Malcolm X this morning. You don't know anything about H. Ralph Brown and Stokely Carmichael, guys like that. Angela Davis. We thought those guys were radicals. There's something wrong with them. But what they were telling us was the truth about our society. And it's unfortunate that this society has a way of brainwashing us in one mental direction that it's very difficult for us to be able to come away from that. But you guys are living in a different time. So you all got all the social media and all the access to things we didn't have. You all could contact your parents right now. You can call your parents and see her. We had to send a pigeon or something like that, a fly horse or something. I mean, a bird or something. Send a note to our parents. So when you look at all those things that were not available to us, and then the way society was giving us information, you can see some of the conditions that we were labored under while we thought the way we did. Let me say this real quick, and I'm going to let you get back. See, I was taught in school, and I'll never forget this, 1492, Christopher Columbus discovered America. How you going to discover America if folks already living here? Yeah. All during my time, and I'll never forget that. Christopher Columbus discovered America. That's why we have Columbus Day. My point is that I believe that. That was ingrained in me. But the other side didn't come out, see, until things like some of the things I was mentioning to you earlier came.
So let me ask you another question. With all the, the violence going on with the police killing black men, young black men my age. Mm-hmm. I mean, was it as bad as back in the Jim Crow era as it is now?
It's kind of hard for me to say because I believe, and this is strictly an opinion, I believe it was worse. Because, see, you could do so many things, as you call it back in the day, that no one knew anything about. Unless it was just a heinous thing where they caught someone hanging off a tree or something of that nature. I mean, you just didn't know it.
So people was actually hanging off trees like in broad day cats, like where everyone could see.
Well, you every now and then you would read about lynchings. Sure. Kids being lynched and things of that nature. So you know it was going on, but you weren't exposed to it. But nowadays you can't get away from that type of thing.
All the social media we got, like things that would happen back then. I feel like you couldn't get away with it because people the way social media works now.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult now to get away with it. But I do believe in my heart, though. I think it was probably 3 or 4 times worse. I really believe that. I can't prove it, but I do believe it was.
Recently, we had Malcolm X's daughter come, and she said a lot of great things about her dad as well. But something that she pointed out to me was that how do we want change if we're not willing to change ourselves?
That's a good point. That's a great point. We have to be willing to change, and I'm not sure she talked about some of the things on how we need to change to accept life as the way it is today, but she's exactly right. You can't have change unless you're willing to change yourself. That's a great point.
I honestly feel like us as blacks, we've come a long way, coming from the slave ship to cotton field. I still feel like that we are still, under pressure from white people even now with the whole Black Lives Matter situation, for example. Like, I feel like white people, like, not saying there's all white people, there's still some white people that just don't like black people for no reason.
There's no question about that. But then on the other side, too, my wife was telling me, we walked this morning, we were talking about these same things, so strange we were talking about. There's a book out and I don't want to miss this point. We were talking about Ben Carson too. The point was this. This guy, I can't think of his name because I told him I was going to get the book. And he was talking about his career. He was a black guy. And he said the folks who have helped him the most were white folks. So I was saying all that to say this, is that I don't think we can paint all white people with the same brush. Because had it not been for some white folks assisting black folks, there's no telling how far we would have been. But then on the other side of that too, black folks throughout history stole black folks too as enslavement to get up to this country. So there has been some denigration, some bad things that happen on both sides of the fence, black on black as well as white on white. So I've said all that to say this. Until people just started, and I think this would never happen during your time nor my time, understanding that it is not about color. It's about the character of a man's skin.
Martin Luther King said it.
He said that, and I don't think it may not get to that during our time, but it will get to that when you have situations like ISIS and things like that that are going on in this country. Some things are going to change. Now, what they are, I can't even begin to speculate. But I do know this, the way we used to do life and the way we're doing life now, some of the things that are going on, it's impossible for them to continue. I think one thing, this just built time with the ideology now, that our political system is so skewed. When you think about what 5% of the population own most of the wealth of this country, until you can get that thing turned around, it's going to be very difficult for us to see the changes and the things that we're talking about. And you just got to get a level playing field.
Okay.
Some of it.
Can I ask you another question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I hope I haven't gotten too far out of the way on you, too.
No, you right on it. You right on it. Excuse me. So, yesterday in class, I learned how Booker T took money from white people to assist black people.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had a classmate that brought out Barack Obama was doing the same thing. Yet, my teacher was saying that it really hasn't been beneficial on Barack Obama's part. But, how would you break that down?
I'll tell you, that's a tough one. Our president, boy, that guy, and I used to be a football coach. I know how it is. You call this play wrong, you should have ran, you should have threw the ball, you should have thrown the ball, you should have ran the ball. I mean, it's a very difficult position our president is in. When you think about this fact, and some people have trouble with this, our black population in the United States is about, what, less than 20%? That's not going to get you in the office. If every black would have voted for Obama, he would not have been able to get into office. It's not enough. You follow what I'm saying? So I've said that to say this, that Obama has not only has to have a strong sensitivity to black folks and their plight, because that's who he is and what he is. But then he also has to understand now that he's got to look at, in my mind, he's got to look at the big picture. And the big picture is this. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, all lives matter. But you got to look at people. And you got to do, in my mind, what's best for the people. And I do think this, what's best for the guy who I gave $2 to this morning when I was coming to school. My last $2 was good for him, may not be good for me. So some kind of way, Obama has got to be able to, or folks like Obama have got to be able to, if you're going to be effective, they got to be able to capture all of those elements. All those people who are against blacks, all those blacks who are against whites, all those people who are depressed and who have difficulties, all kinds of challenges in their lives. If you're the president, you got to be the president of all of those folks. But you got to be able to hear those special need people. People who I gave my $2 to, black folks, the underprivileged, the underserved, underrepresented. You got to also be president for those folks too. So I know I've taken you in a lot of different directions, and I hope I hit some points that you.
So, as you might not know, I used to live in Atlanta. And you know Atlanta's a very black historical place.
Oh, yeah.
So